All right, there we go. Starting for real this time.
For real. For realio, for trulio. Hey, 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 Eric. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I've got a case of the funnies. I'm good.
Well, that's better
Things
than the
are good.
alternative. That is better than the alternative.
Yeah, that was the other day.
So, anything fun this week?
Well, I did. So this week, I did some electrical work around the house. I have my lights that go under my deck, which I was all very excited about.
Uh-huh.
But I don't have a plug, and I didn't want to run a extension cord from the outlet at the ground and then have to bend over it. Anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I wanted? I wanted to plug it directly into, when I turn the light switch on, all the lights would come on. My little strand of cool light. So I found on Amazon, the place you can find everything, a outdoor lamp that had a GFI-based plug attached to it. And of course, it worked. So I installed that. I can turn that on, and it turns on the, what are those called? Patio light? Porch light? Porch light. It's a porch light. It has a plug on it, which is tied to the switch, the porch light. And now I can plug that. It looks great.
So basically, anything plugged into the plug will turn on.
Comes on when the switch comes on, yes.
Okay. So I want that, but I want there to be two plugs on it. One that is always on and one that is plugged in.
So when I went to do the wiring, there is not an option for that. So the thing I got, you wouldn't be able to use because, it had just the two wires and it was all boxed up inside. So, and the ground, the two wires in the ground but it solved the problem I wanted solved. So I was happy.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I was kind of waiting for you to do that because I have the lights outside the back under my deck as well. I don't have the, rain-free deck, or underdecking, whatever that would be called. But I do have, light strands out there, but I have the extension cord run.
Right.
So mine are not so awesome. You have to, it's not even so bad. It's not even so that like there's a switch or anything else. You have to like go plug, you have to run an extension cord to plug into them. So it would be awesome to do that. So that's cool. I might have to be like Eric.
I need to order another one because now I need to do the same thing above the deck or on the top of the deck, not under the deck.
Right outside the back door.
Right outside the upstairs back door. So
Amazon has everything. I actually am waiting for an Amazon package. Should be here tomorrow or Friday because I'm sure I didn't mention it on the podcast, but a few months ago. And when I said that to my wife the other day, she was like, it's been at least 2 years, right? But a few months ago, I backed into something and I broke my driver's taillight on my car. And
the red electrical tape looks great.
Right. It's been there long enough that you know what it is. Okay, so the bad thing is, at some point in the last week, and this literally, I think it's in the last week, I was driving home and I did not notice that there was a cop behind me come up to a stop sign, and I come to a complete stop and I look left, nobody's coming. I look right, and there was a cop right next to me with his lights on. And I was like, whoa, where did you come from?
Hey.
And he rolled down his window. And so I rolled down my window and I literally said the first thing, I'm like, I'm really sorry. I did not see your lights at all. And he said, I didn't actually turn them on when I was behind you. I'm like, well, I guess that's good. But his comment was, your left tail light is out, as is the third light above, like there's a high brake light. So you need to get those fixed. To which I was like, okay, yes, I do. So evidently my red duct tape solution has not been working for some period of time, and I have no idea how long. I'm going to say order months, but my wife would probably say, yeah, that's many, many months. Anyway, the bad part about this, the part where this is, John, you really, really need to be a better person. So I did two things. First, I was like, well, maybe instead of fixing the real thing, I can fix that top light. Maybe that'll be easier. So a couple of YouTube videos later, I'm like, oh, heck no, that is not easier. You have to basically take apart all the molding on the inside of the back door and drill out a few things to get out. Anyway, I was like, okay, and I'm done. There were also videos of people like retrofitting that for LEDs. And again, I'm like, really? This is I don't want to put any money into this car, really. And so then I'm like, well, let me just get the part that the rear housing for the rear taillight, which is all that needs to be replaced.
Right.
You want to take a guess at how much that's going to cost me to complete?
$200.
$37. 30 plus, and I at least I assume I need to buy 3 of lights, which I bought. So the lamps were $11 for 3 of them. So for a grand total of $45-ish, $48-ish dollars. And I'm pretty sure, because I watched some YouTube videos of this too, about 10 minutes of time, I will have that fixed. I mean, I should wait until I'm done with that. But anyway, so.
Famous last words.
Who knows what how good are car parts you buy on Amazon? I don't know. But this is a very old Explorer that I'm trying desperately to get to 300,000 miles. And I really want to. And I've still got a couple. Well, what I've got? I got about 20,000 miles to go.
Just for giggles? Or is there like when it hits 3,000, I'll finally get a new car? I assume you're going to drive that Explorer until it gives up and runs away from home.
I don't know.
And you come outside and you can't find it because it's like, stop, let me die.
It's been a very good car for me for a very, 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 very long time. Sorry, I bought that car in 97, I think. So, and it wasn't new at the time. It was a couple years old. Well, it's a 96, but it was produced in 95. Anyway, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm just saying, Amazon, cheap car parts. We'll see if they work. That'll be one of my jobs this next weekend.
Well,
so I'll let you know.
Speaking of Amazon, which we could do every week, because I'm pretty sure either you or I have something that has shown up at our houses from Amazon at least once a week. No, so we've been having network issues again. What was it? A year plus ago, I had given up. I had decided it was the Eero was to blame, and I bought the whole Amplify system. I didn't go the Ubiquiti fancy enterprise route. I went the consumer version, and that seems to have gotten flakier and flakier over the years. So I am back on the Eero bandwagon. I got the new Eero Pro 6s and replaced them and reminded myself why I loved the Eero before.
The hashtag just works?
Yes, it was plugged it in and it all worked. We'll see how it goes if things start to flake out, because I have the most important user, my lovely wife, who is the one who says, the internet's down. Again, did you notice? So if I stop hearing that, I'll know that it is successful. So far, so good. It's been about a week.
I don't know. I've been relatively happy with Ubiquiti Unify.
Right.
So I did have to reboot a couple things a week ago or so. And I think I've messed up my management interface, but I haven't had to actually fix it yet. So it's going to be lovely once I have to fix it in an emergency. But
that's right.
I need to, I don't know what I need to do. It's bad. I need to start again in debugging. Actually, this is all about me being cheap again is really what it is. Cause I refuse to spend $200 for, what they call a cloud key, which is basically just a tiny little Linux box that it's a Raspberry Pi, I'm going to say, that they run a Java applet on. and charge you $200 for. And I have like this
Right.
stubborn refusal to pay $200 for anything that's going to run a Java applet for, I don't know. It's dumb. It's dumb. I should probably just spend the money because that'll be easier. But at the moment, I've got a container running on my QNAP that is the management interface, except that I have 2 containers running, which I think are conflicting. But if I shut down either one of them, they don't actually need. Anyway, I've done a minor amount of debugging, but I need to do a major amount of debugging. Mm-hmm. But I blame myself. I don't blame Unify for this.
Well, I finally decided to spend some time. So I used to run a bunch of stuff in Google Cloud.
Okay.
And I did a bunch of demos and I shut a lot of it down, but I've been being charged like 40 cents a month for I know, a long time. Today I thought I should figure out where that 40 cents is coming from so that I can stop having to pay 40 cents on my credit card every month to Google, have they get charged. I couldn't find it. I was hunting around like, it's not totally true. I think it's in data storage somewhere, but my refusal is I don't just want to delete the project. I just want to export all the data because the data basically is 6 years worth of temperature values and when doors opened and closed in my house. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, maybe that'll be fun data to analyze. And now, as I say it out loud, I'm like, just delete the project.
No. Oh gosh, no! You can't delete. You can't delete that. You can't delete that.
I've got tons of data, so I thought it'd be cool to download that and maybe do something with it, and then delete the project so I can get rid of having to remember. Well, it's auto pay, but have a 40-cent charge, which probably costs Google 35 cents in transaction fees.
Totally not even worth an hour of your time. Ever.
I know it's not, but it bugs me. So therefore, it was
so
worth
funny.
the half hour I spent. And then since I'm throwing out random facts, my little hash check app on the App Store, I did zero marketing. I did zero anything to try to, and it made 0 sales, right? No one has bought it. So I just made it free. So
everything's you gotta get it free with in-app purchase of some sort.
But it's so simple. What would you in-app pay for? So anyways, Hashcheck is now just free for fun, and I will leave it up until someone complains and asks for a bug fix. And I'm like, I don't want to.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
And the only reason I did that was because I got a nasty email from Apple saying, hey, every month there's something different with the App Store Connect. And it is, unlike most other Apple software, it is the most unintuitive thing in places to fix. It said, you got to go here and fix this thing. I went where it said to fix. I have no clue how to fix the thing. It says on the top of the bar, do this. Nowhere on the page do I have the ability to do what it's asking me to do. So I'm randomly clicking links because Apple, in their cleanliness, doesn't actually show you any buttons. There's just text. And somewhere, one of those texts will actually link and go somewhere.
Gosh, that is just the worst.
I finally figured it out, but it was like I spent more than 40 cents worth of Google Cloud debugging time just trying to find the stupid link so I could do the thing that they said I had to do, or I would stop being able to, whatever, Apple. Anyways, enough complaining.
We should talk about, I was going to say work things, but we should talk about security things.
Yeah. I see you threw in some follow-up.
I did. I saw it. I thought it might actually wind up being an article, but in reality, I think it's just mostly follow-up worthy. This was another cryptocurrency hack, I guess you'd say. Again on the decentralized finance. So Cream Finance. Which, okay, I bet that's an acronym for something. But it says that It is a, quote, decentralized finance platform that allows users to loan and speculate on cryptocurrency price variations.
That's exactly what
Is speculating redundant in that context?
I don't know how anything cryptocurrency related isn't speculation.
Yeah. But so this it says they suffered an exploit resulting in a loss of 418 million AMP coins. I don't know what the AMP units are. And 1,300 in Ethereum by way of a re-entrancy on the AMP token contract. So the re-entrancy attack, it says, so I quote, re-entrancy attacks take place when a bug in these contracts allows an attacker to withdraw funds repeatedly in a loop before the original transaction is approved or declined, and the funds need to be returned. So basically, I have a $5 balance. Give me $5. Give me five.
It'll keep giving you $5.
And at the end of the day, you're like, awesome. I withdrew $29 million out of my $5 balance, or something along those lines.
Well done.
And the other stat in here, we'll put the link. It's a link to the record article, but the other stat in here was that DeFi-related hacks have accounted for 76% of all major hacks. I don't know how they define major hacks in 2021, and users have lost more than $474 million to attacks on DeFi, decentralized finance, platforms this year, according to CipherTrace.
I assume that's cryptocurrency hacks specific to cryptocurrency-related items, not all
I would
hacks
assume that, yes.
around the world.
Yeah, I think ransomware would account for far more than half $500 million, at least in total. So there you go.
All right. Well, I found this article a couple weeks ago and didn't use it before, but I thought it was mostly just an interesting story. I'm going to have an Apple day today.
Oh, Apple day. Okay. Well, one of my articles is about Apple. So we'll have
all things Apple for me today.
3 out of 4.
And so Apple is very secretive, right? And it's a cat and mouse game. There's tons of rumor sites that are looking to try to be able to get the scoop on what Apple's going to do next. And, anyways. So apparently, this article is about a spy, a guy who was in the let's steal Apple secret stuff and find internal Apple documents, etc. community, and decided to turn over a new leaf-ish because he thought maybe he could get some money out of Apple if he told Apple about something big that was coming his way. And so what the story turns out to be is he became effectively a double agent. So he would go he was well respected, well known in the illicitly obtained Apple information community, and was looking for compensation from Apple, and so was playing the double agent, was feeding Apple information about the actual which journalists were talking to what things, how they found out. And it was generally just interesting to read about, I guess you just call it corporate espionage, but almost an open source corporate espionage kind of. That's how I think of it anyways, right? Because it's not doing it to like company A trying to steal from company B. It's community A trying to get scoops and make money off of Apple by getting journalist scoops or selling researchers or other people information ahead of time before maybe it's almost like insider trading kind of thing. So I thought it was an interesting article, nicely written, and kind of details how Apple in their global security employs former FBI and other security related type folks, how they kind of basically just used him and strung him along and made him feed him information, but never gave him what he was hoping to get out of the deal. And so he went public with this story.
Was he hoping for money or recognition? Or
Yep.
I haven't read this article.
He was hoping for money.
Yeah.
he was hoping that, several times he mentions, and he showed the journalist who wrote the article emails back and forth with him, chat groups with back and forth with him and Apple's security over the year. And Apple lost out because, as is been documented elsewhere, Apple is very stingy in weird ways, with helping out, security researchers and bug bounty programs already. So why wouldn't they be equivalently or equally stingy with someone who's doing something they shouldn't? Anyways, so there you go. That's article number 1.
I'll have to read it.
Then my second one is mostly just a comment, and then I had a question. Was Apple is now, they announced, I think at their WWDC, that, hey, pretty soon you'll be able to have your driver's license or other government identification on your iPhone, in your wallet app on your phone. And so the article is just basically describes, hey, these states are the first ones that Apple is going to convince to allow you to have your driver's license, for example, your state identification on your phone, and that will be treated as valid. If you go somewhere within the state, instead of having to pull out your driver's license to show somebody for whatever service you may have to be required to show, that you can show the app on your phone. And my question is, would you trust your driver's license or passport or government issued ID to be available on your app? How do you, I think everybody is now comfortable with credit cards or money, digital representations of money, Apple Pay and Google Pay and whatnot. But what about driver's licenses?
My first gut is no, but that's probably like first gut is the old man yells at cloud. I mean, I guess I would say I've taken photos of my vaccine cards so that I have them available if need be. And I think the weird-ish thing for this is how the states would allow that to happen. As it sounds as if I opened the article here. It sounds as if there's a state provided validation. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Yep.
So,
well, I
have my phone with me all the time. I like
exactly.
I like the minimal wallet. You kind of peer pressured me into a couple of years ago. Got rid of my Costanza wallet. It's been very nice. I've
your
not
back problems
that
are all gone, aren't they?
Oh, I just have a stiff neck, but hey.
Well, I personally am all for it. Get as much physical stuff. I'm all in. With the driver's license, the trick or key or
you'd probably
note,
put a chip in your hand too, huh? Wouldn't you?
I would. Probably, if there was appropriate benefit, is how do you validate it, right? Because if I take, right, the reason why your driver's license is viewed and you can take it to the TSA, for example, to get on a flight and show them your driver's license is because there's markings on it. They hold it under a black light or some type of light to check, There's ways that they can visually tell that this is legitimate and not a forged copy.
Mm-hmm.
Digital things are generally much easier to forge. So the trick is, how are they going to validate it, right? And how are they going to verify that, yes, that digital copy of that thing on the screen is legitimate? Because it's not like I can hold that under a black light or, some type of thing, do I got to beep a QR code like they beep and then that does a lookup somewhere? And then what happens if that lookup doesn't succeed? Do I not get access? Do I still need my physical card? If Apple Pay doesn't work, I have to pull out my wallet. So it's frustrating. It's the frustration.
That's always frustrating.
You always have the backup though. You have the physical thing. So that is the one question that is not answered in the article that I would have to make sure that, hey, if I take this and provide this and I can legitimately show you this, that whoever is the receiver who has to validate it has a guaranteed way to validate it, then let's go for it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to carry my driver's license or my whatever ID anyways, right? So it becomes a convenience thing like Apple Pay and not a replacement thing.
I definitely, so if I say something really definitive, it'll probably come true the opposite way. I cannot see, for example, taking a flight in the next X years, I'll say 5 years, where I did not take an ID or a passport and I only took my phone, right? Because then what? You're someplace else, you lose or break your phone, or it's not charged, and you have no ID, no credit. Sorry, not the credit card stuff. Maybe you could still take your wallet, but if you're still going to take your wallet for a backup there, you wouldn't have your driver's license in it. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. That being said, I love using Apple Pay. I like the fact that I'm not giving my fixed credit card number to merchants to track my purchases, almost more than anything else. But I also, it's very convenient not to, have to pull out my wallet. and where was I? I was somewhere the other day, and I tapped my watch, getting ready to pay, and the guy was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't support Apple Pay." And I'm like, "Oh, you must see this a bunch now." Because it's very different from what it was a couple years ago when it was, oh, hey, look at this. I can actually use my watch.
It's flipped. You now expect to use Apple Pay and are surprised when you can't.
Totally.
All right. So there you go. Those are my two Apple articles for today. The second one's not really a thing. It was just more of a, what do you think?
All right. My non-Apple article is a vulnerability in Microsoft Azure's Cosmos DB service. Did you see this? I saw this, and then also JR posted something in Slack. So this there were not complete details released in this yet. So I think the deal is that Microsoft has mitigated but not fixed the vulnerability. So I guess I'm expecting that there'll be a broader release of info at some point. Although I don't think Microsoft releases CVEs for its cloud service vulnerabilities. So, we might not ever know. Although the source of a lot of these sorts of write-ups aren't actually the vendor themselves, but the security firm or researcher that found it, that, puts out a blog post explaining what it is and how they did it once it's been fixed and, maybe the 90 days have passed. So this is a cloud security vendor, Wiz, announced yesterday it found this is a couple days ago though, found a vulnerability in Microsoft Azure's managed database service Cosmos DB that granted read-write access for every database on the service to any attacker who found and exploited the bug.
Ouch.
So there was essentially a way. It said down here, the short version is that that misconfiguration in the Jupyter feature opened up a privilege escalation exploit. That exploit could be used to gain access to other Cosmos DB customers' primary keys. According to Wiz, any other Cosmos DB customer's primary key, along with the other secrets. So, Jupyter, this is a kind of a funny description of Jupyter. It says, in 2019, Microsoft added the open source Jupyter Notebook functionality to Cosmos DB. Jupyter Notebooks are a particularly user-friendly way to implement machine learning algorithms. That is a super weird way to describe Jupyter Notebooks.
Jupyter Notebooks are ways to run Python code in browsers.
There you go. That is a much better description. Jupyter Notebooks. Yeah, it provides. Okay, here's an attempt. Oh, maybe I don't mean to be denigrating. It's a way of allowing non-developers to structure code linearly.
Yeah.
Because so I mean I work with notebooks all the time, and I know you do too, and they're fine. They're fine.
They're a fabulous tool.
But they sometimes break my mind because I want like a script to start at the top and like run down, and but so the way Jupyter notebooks are organized is in cells, and you basically can hit plus and add a cell, and you can move cells around, and you can type just a couple lines of code into a cell, and with the expectation that when the code in the cell runs, it will allow you to visualize whatever happened in there. So you can print something,
it'll thing.
Print it.
Yeah.
You can. It's mostly used to show charts and graphs and things like that. If you're going to try and visualize something, but the thing that kind of breaks me sometimes is behind the scenes you have a running instance of Python with complete state, but only of the cells that have run, right? It's like you've basically got a REPL command line tool, and you've typed a few things in it, and so if you edited that cell up there and didn't run it, or jump down below, the state is so not obvious. So I don't know. I'm a user, not a fan. But there's ways that it's nice. Okay, whatever. This is way too much about Jupyter. Anyway, blah 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 blah. So I wonder. I'm not. There's no data in here for this, but I guess I'm assuming that there was some way that when they say added Jupyter functionality to Cosmos DB, that's just so I'm not a user of this service. I don't even know what they mean by that service. But like when I think of a database service, I think of a way to get a connection to the database and run queries against the database. When I think about a notebook service like this, or like SageMaker, or on AWS, like I think about a different service. Where one of the things you would actually want to do is execute database commands to get data and graph data and everything else. So I'm assuming that this Azure service was an easy way to launch a Jupyter notebook with a configuration already present that connected to a particular Cosmos DB. And
allowed you to read, write. That could be your data store.
And that behind the scenes, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this. IAM's hard.
I love IAM.
Identity and access management.
Thing.
Yes. Yeah. Keep repeating that to yourself every day. So I assume that there was some way there's a vulnerability in the way that's instantiated, that for some reason, the notebooks that were instantiated weren't appropriately sandboxed, or could the quote, what do they call it? They call them primary keys. I haven't used Cosmos DBs, but it'll be interesting if they ever detail this particular vulnerability. But the other weird thing about this is, so it says Microsoft only emailed 30% or so of its Cosmos DB customers about the vulnerability. The email warned those users to rotate their primary key manually in order to make certain that any leaked keys are no longer useful to attackers. These Cosmos DB customers are the ones which had Jupyter Notebook functionality enabled during the week or so in which Wiz explored the vulnerability. Okay, but presumably the vulnerability existed before Wiz discovered it. And it said separately in here that I don't think I pulled out the link. There was at some point earlier, Microsoft automatically enabled this functionality with new databases, and then disabled it after 3 days if you didn't actually use it. So it was enabled by default and then disabled if you didn't use it. But presumably you could have gone back in and re-enabled it if you wanted to. So what that means is that hypothetically, at least, if there was an attacker or somebody had known about this vulnerability beforehand, they could have scraped and saved off the primary keys for any number of databases and customers, but just either haven't been discovered yet or haven't used them yet. And if you weren't, if the Jupyter functionality wasn't enabled in the week that they decided to notify customers, you might not have gotten that notice and you haven't rotated your keys and done anything else. So the Wiz Securities stance is this could be a broader impact scenario. You should tell all Cosmos DB customers to rotate their keys if the Jupyter functionality had ever been enabled, which if your database was created after Microsoft changed their default stance, it would have been enabled for at least those 3 days. But according to Microsoft, here's the last quote I pulled out. I'll actually read this. According to Microsoft, there's no evidence any malicious actors found and exploited ChaosDB. Oh, ChaosDB is what they were calling this vulnerability.
Got it.
Instead of Cosmos DB, it's ChaosDB. There's no evidence any malicious actors found and exploited ChaosDB prior to the Wiz discovery. An emailed statement from Microsoft to Bloomberg said, "We are not aware of any customer data being accessed because of this vulnerability." And then, in addition to warning 3,000 plus customers of the vulnerability and providing mitigation instructions, Microsoft paid a $40,000 bounty. So
nice.
I'm kind of surprised it's that low, honestly.
Yeah, judging from what the implications are, seems...
Yeah, the severity's
maybe
pretty bad.
All right, you were going to give me more Apple stuff?
Okay, kind of. So in the sense that this is another article about the zero-day iMessage exploits. So right. I think the article I'll link here. I add 2 links to this, although I got both these links, I think, from reading Schneier's blog. There's a Wired story, which you can certainly go read, but the link I'll probably put in here is the one to Citizen Lab's research, which I think is the primary source behind the Wired story in the first place.
Yep.
But so this, we've talked a little bit about NSO a few weeks ago, a while back. They are the Israeli company that provides spyware to governments and
people with money.
Yeah, and this article is specifically about the government of Bahrain and their use of the NSO Group's Pegasus spyware to target activists in and outside of Bahrain. So they identified 9 Bahraini activists, they say, quote, whose phones were successfully hacked with NSO Group's Pegasus spyware between June 2020 and February 2021. Some of the activists were hacked using zero-click iMessage exploits, the 2020 Kismet exploit, I think that's what we talked about last year, and a 2021 exploit we call forced entry. At least 4 of the activists were hacked by Lulu, a Pegasus operator we attribute with high confidence to the government of Bahrain. It says a well-known abuser of spyware. One of the activists was hacked in 2020, several hours after they revealed during an interview that their phone was hacked with Pegasus in 2019. This is a kind of a hard to read article in the sense that it details a lot about Bahrain's history of repression and suppression. But there's a couple of security specific things to pull out of here, because we talked about, in fact, I think I even had as an article at some point in time in the last year about the blast door security feature that Apple put in that kind of attempted to essentially put a firewall around iMessage and prevent things like this. So there's a comment in here that says one of the activists, and most of the activists of the 9 that they said, only the two that were not living in Bahrain were willing to be named. But so this says they're calling this one Activist B. They switched back to a one-click exploit, meaning so not a zero-click, but the examples in the article here were like DHL Express, iMessages that says, hey, click here to track your package. And, yep. I know I've gotten many of those, not necessarily from, hopefully, zero-click exploits from somebody like the NSO group, but zero-click means just sending the message is sufficient for the attacker to get access on the device. A one-click means that they require the user to actually click on something. So in this particular case, even they say that so they have this particular target running a VPN, so they can actually see the traffic going back and forth between their phone, and they see that the link was clicked, but they say, here's the quote: the message was a fake DHL package tracking notification. The target may have accidentally previewed the link in the message while attempting to copy the message to send it to us. So that's one of the problems, right? Like if you're trying to copy, or, and you hover over something and you, even if you know better, it's possible to accidentally, trigger an automatic preview, for example. It says the target's VPN recorded that the link in the message was opened and redirected to a unique subdomain, blah, 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 confirming it was a Pegasus link connected to the Bahraini government. The action did not result in the infection of the phone. It's possible the target closed the preview before the exploit ran. And then here's the thing there. An NSO group may have temporarily switched back to one-click iOS exploits due to the new Blast Door security feature implemented by Apple. The Blast Door feature was designed to make zero-click exploitation via iMessage harder. But then starting in February of 2021, they detected a new zero-click iMessage exploit that circumvented the Blast Door feature. So they refer to it as forced entry. The reason they call that is because it circumvents Blast Door. But they also say that Amnesty Tech observed the same exploitation around the same time and called that Megalodon. So I'm like, part of me was like, can you guys just agree on one of them then? But no, of course not. So then there's a bunch of detail in the article here about, I'll say, side effects or observations that they made on when the forced entry exploit was running. So they can see that when the exploit was fired at a device, the device logs showed crashes associated with the IM transcoder agent, seg faults in a particular function, where they were trying to debug, I didn't pull it out, but it was like an Adobe file of some sort. Or not trying to debug, trying to display. So they do say that with the consent of the targets, they shared these crash logs and such with Apple, although the only comment in here is that they confirmed they're investigating. So as recently as 6 months ago, there was a new zero-click exploit being used in the wild against, journalists and activists around the world. Let's see what else was in this article. So, there was a bunch of information about Bahrain, its history, a lot of stuff. I didn't know. It's not. I don't pay as much attention as I probably should for some of these other sort of countries. But, NSO Group, of course, claims they are committed to protecting human rights. But this purported concern, this is a quote, this purported concern is contradicted by a growing mountain of evidence that its spyware is used by authoritarian regimes against human rights activists, journalists, and other members of civil society. The final comment I'm making here is that we believe that the specific attacks mentioned in this report could have been prevented by disabling iMessage and FaceTime. However, NSO Group has successfully exploited other messaging apps in the past to deliver malware, such as WhatsApp. Thus, disabling iMessage and FaceTime would not offer complete protection from zero-click attacks or spyware. Additionally, disabling iMessage means the messages sent, messages exchanged via Apple's built-in Messages app would be sent unencrypted, i.e. green messages instead of blue messages, making them trivial for an attacker to intercept.
Right.
So, damned if you do and damned if you don't, so to speak. So there was a bunch more info in that article, so I guess I'd encourage people to click on it and read it. It's a good one. But I'll put the Citizen Lab in the show notes.
Got it.
So there you go. There's my articles for this week.
All right. Guess what my something fun's on?
How about something fun?
Guess what it's on?
Oh, look at you. Another Apple. Okay, you really are everything Apple today.
It's all Apple today. And this one, I'm going to tell you how the king of apples was dethroned.
Okay.
Slowly, steadily, and intentionally. So, the Red Delicious Apple. I remember as a kid loving Red Delicious apples. I can't stand them now.
They're mealy.
They're no good.
They're no good.
Yeah. And so this article finally explains why. So a little bit of history. The Red Delicious apple was discovered mostly by accident in 1893 and, kind of gained popularity. It took on the name of Red Delicious, and it was in the 1940s. It was the best-selling apple in the United States. But what happened is selective breeding. So it turns out that farmers wanted the brighter reds, the less, striping in the apple. The redder the apple was, the better it was marketing-wise. However, the problem was the redder the apple was, the less flavor it had. And then because they also had in, the 30s, 40s, 50s, transported, most of the transport of these apples was on bumpy trains, shipping things in trains. It had a slightly thicker skin so that by the time it got to market, it still was bright red and looked really nice. But that meant they bred for a thicker skin.
Wow.
And so it was just a fascinating article that just kind of details how it went from being the darling to now it's just a horrible apple and no one's making them anymore because it just doesn't taste good. It's small.
I don't even remember the last time we bought Red Delicious apples.
Yeah, exactly. But the final comment is they literally bred the flavor out of the apple. So there you go. There's my something fun and my to full circle my all things Apple today.
100% Apple all the time. Well, so I will say we have been eating still. We have a Honeycrisp. Actually, we put in 2 Honeycrisp trees and we got a bunch of Honeycrisps, and that's probably one of my favorite apples at the moment.
Yes.
Although we've also got a couple of Asian pear trees, and we left a few Asian pears on to let them kind of, we took out, they were, the branches were laden with Asian pears, so full, we basically had to pull off, and we probably threw out thousands of little ones. Like at least 3 full 5-gallon buckets of like small, call them 1.5 inch pears, because like literally you couldn't see the branch, and the branches were all getting bent over, and some of them were breaking from the weight of all this fruit. Right. So, but anyway, regardless, on some of the more sturdy branches, we left even after we picked off all that we were going to use and all that we just got to like give the tree a break. We've still got a few on the main branch that I'm like selectively kind of picking off so that the rest kind of get a little bit bigger. And so I've been having at least 1 Asian pear a day. And it's just that I'm really, really enjoying them. They're I like Asian pears better than I like apples, I have to say. Not that I don't. I dislike apples. We eat a lot of apples, but those Asian pears are really good.
I love the Honeycrisp.
Those Honeycrisps are great.
Alrighty.
All right, what's my something fun? Okay, my something fun is an article about Venus. So we talked about Venus.
The planet?
Yes, the planet.
Okay.
With the Venera pictures in episode 180. So 15 episodes ago was when I did the Soviet Venus landers that barely make it to the surface, right? Because the surface of Venus is high pressure, caustic, super hot, right?
Not friendly
like it is very much not friendly. But NASA announced a couple months ago, actually, that it's going to have 2 upcoming quote Discovery program missions to Venus. They're called Da Vinci Plus and Veritas, and so they're 2 different things. Veritas, and all of these things have acronym. So
I'm reading
Venus Emissivity Radio Science INSAR Topography and Spectroscopy Mission, Veritas. It just rolls right off the tongue.
I love how they pick all right, here's the word we want to use. Find me a cool, turn it into an acronym. That means
right.
Veritas.
Right. Well, that's
what we want to call it.
Is it a backronym? That's the thing. I don't know.
Backronym.
Anyway, so it's going to be an orbiter with a state-of-the-art radar system to generate, it says, an unprecedentedly detailed map of the planet. So all sorts of stuff there, including infrared, so possibly able to distinguish specific minerals on the surface by their characteristic thermal glow, it says. And it's got a ability to measure the strength of the gravitational field to try and figure out what Venus is made of. So, and then Da Vinci is Da Vinci Plus, Deep Atmosphere Venus Investigation of Noble Gases, Chemistry, and Imaging Plus. Plus more?
Why,
I don't know.
Why the plus? That seems
I'm
extra.
guessing there was an old plan called Da Vinci, and then they did a little bit more. Again, right. I don't know this. I'm making up a story in my head. But
I'm with you.
This is an attempt to drop an American probe into, it calls the Venusian Maw for the first time since Pioneer in 1978. So actually, this is kind of cool. The probe would tumble through the atmosphere, gulping and analyzing its constituent chemicals during its intentionally deadly journey. As the clouds parted and the surface approached, it would use its cameras to take the most high-resolution images of the planet's mountainous and geologically complex Alpha Regio region to date, while infrared detectors would parse out the terrain's mineralogy. The probe would expire shortly after landing, but not before beaming back the data gathered during its parachute-slowed plunge.
I wonder if we have to pay Russia for landing on the planet.
Right?
Didn't Russia claim ownership of Venus? Or am I remembering that wrong?
I don't remember. Sorry, I don't remember if there was a flag planted.
That crumbled and dissolved really fast?
But so this is a super long article. This was a Scientific American article, which means that it's even longer than a Wired article. So you can go read tons about this. But the thing that I didn't remember, and it made me think about a certain book that I know that you and I just read not too long ago, is it says, so NASA hasn't sent anything to Venus for decades.
Right.
Sort of started out the whole article explaining how they haven't done anything for decades. But in September of 2020, a team of scientists announced that using 2 telescopes, they detected phosphine at a particular altitude in the Venusian clouds, where the temperatures and pressures would allow droplets of water to exist. And that phosphine can be made by volcanism and lightning. I'm reading here. But it can also be made by microbes, which raised the possibility this discovery was indirect evidence of alien life. So part of the reason why this may have been approved is so they could go and check out whether there are microbes in the Venusian atmosphere. So it says this detection has been called into question in the months since, with analyses both corroborating and refuting it. But actually I didn't write down when these would be happening. But at some point in the future, in the near future, we will potentially have measurements of that. But anyway, article's very long, article's very cool, all about Venus. So
I have not read it. I'm gonna go read that one. Very cool.
All right. Well, enjoy.
All right.
Thanks,
John.
Have a great night. I will talk to you later.
Yeah.
Call it a show.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.